Hello, welcome to the session Design Exploration of the First Steps course. In this session, you will learn how to explore design space by generating multiple variants and finding the optimal design. You will perform a design study on the solid beam that was generated in the geometry generation session and finding the design with the smallest surface area to volume ratio. This will help you to understand the mechanics of setting up parameters and responses and creating and evaluating multiple designs. In this session, we will recycle a workflow from an earlier session, which is the geometry generation one. If you zoom into here, you should recognize this workflow. So we create a rectangle and make a boundary surface out of it and then extrude this surface to become this solid body. And this is the interval input and for the rectangle and the extrusion length for the solid body. And then this is added to this workflow. It's an evaluation, so we calculate the area, the surface area of the body and the volume and divide them to get the surface area volume ratio, which you can read in this panel. Now what we want to do is to explore this design and find the design with the smallest surface area to volume ratio. And to do that, the first step is to link the parameters, which are the interval or the size of the rectangle and the extrusion length, to the parameter setup. You can right-click on them and select parameter setup. And if you see this purple outline, you know that a component is linked to a parameter setup. The next step is to also link the response to the setup. In our case, the response is this area volume ratio. And again, you right-click and select the parameter setup. Let's get to the design study. First off, we have to run the parameter setup, and then we can take a look at it. So these are the parameters, and this is the response. And with the parameters, you can see that these are the values that the parameters currently have. And the minimum and maximum are set to the minimum and maximum values of the number slider. So if you would like to change these, you can do it in here, or you could also change the number sliders and this will adjust. Now we have to click on Create and Evaluate on the Design Exploration component. And we want to create the designs. And to create multiple designs, we click on this Create Designs plus the smaller one. And here I type in the number of designs I would like to have. Let's go a bit higher. And now 200 designs are created, and as you can see, the interval and the length are variated. And I can now evaluate them. If I click on Evaluate, the surface area and volume ratio for each design will be calculated, and you can see how the design changes in the viewer. Now we have to wait for all of them to be evaluated. Okay, so the design exploration has run through and we have all those values for the area volume ratio. And as I said before, we want to minimize this. So I'm going to sort it by size. So I have the smallest one on top. And now I would like to load this design, and I click on this little button. And as you can read here, the interval is 20 and the length is 58. If you now close the design exploration and go back to your parameters, you can see that these are set to the optimal parameters to get the smallest ratio. In this session, you variated the parameters of a solid beam to find the design with the smallest surface area to volume ratio. You now know how to perform a design study.